The fact of the matter is I was not fooled from the beginning. And my article, Savage Says America Has Been Hoodwinked, was basically the centerpiece of yesterday's program. It was picked up by WorldNet Daily. It's now on the Drudge Report. America Has Been Hoodwinked, says Savage. And I want to say to you, it's a very important article, and you should read it. And I want to tell you right now that I've studied this economy in pretty much in great detail for my book, Trickle Up Poverty. And I want to go back to what I wrote then. I'm not going to read from the book, but I found an essay on this that I wrote. I don't even think it wound up in the book. And I'm going to go back to Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, because Obama is truly a Leninist, not even a Marxist. Many of the fake Republicans are saying, well, he's no Marxist. No, they're right. He's a Leninist. You see, Lenin had a vision, a disturbed vision. Lenin thought that a nation could only grow more prosperous when controlled by a vanguard, an elite, a group of people who know better than you what to do with your property. The Leninist elite would lead people to a world free of pain and poverty. There would be no more haves and have-nots, no more private property, just boundless prosperity. All a nation had to do was transfer its entire wealth to Lenin's vanguard. The Leninist vision, of course, had consequences. If you did not want to relinquish your private property, Leninists would just take it. For in addition to being a socialist elite, Leninists were also an elite of thieving, murdering thugs. Furthermore, Leninism's centralized decision-making created horrific iniquities. Famine, not abundance, was just one consequence of Leninism in the ex-Soviet Union. In the Leninist world, the rich grow poorer and the poor grow poorer. The government, which controls every piece of property, right down to the last peppercorn, grows immensely rich, as do the party apparatchiks who control all goods and services. At its very core, Leninism is not about empowering workers or about delivering abundance. Leninism is about redistributing a nation's wealth to a government elite. While Leninists say they detest private property, they use the state to hoard property for their own uses. As one Eastern European dissident observed, communism simply created the new class of powerful bureaucrats. But today's policymakers can learn very important lessons from Lenin. Leninist notions of property teach us the errors of redistributing wealth. Leninist organizational tactics teach us the terror that can result from empowering bureaucrats at the expense of the individual. And given the failed history of socialism, you have to ask yourself why Barack Obama appears intent on repeating the errors of Lenin and his followers. Make no mistake about it. The Obama administration wants to redistribute wealth. It wants to take the wealth of the nation's productive class and deliver it to the state. The administration will take this wealth through taxes. It will take this wealth through eminent domain. It will take this wealth through increased regulation. The end result? America's rich will be poorer. America's poor will be poorer. America's middle class will be wiped out. But America's government will be more powerful than ever, as will the elected officials and their select bureaucrats. You see, Obama's Leninism comes in many forms for those of you who are naive enough to believe that I don't know what I'm talking about. Obama himself is the individual expression of government elitism. He attended fancy schools. He befriended radical chic elitists like William Ayers. He believes that government, when staffed by fellow elitists, can do almost anything. It can run businesses, defeat market forces, and control the weather. It can even cure cancer. Obama sounds smart, so it must all be true, argue his followers. All Obama asks is that you let him and his bureaucrats control an increasing share of our nation's wealth and property. You know, the federal government has a stake in General Motors and Citigroup, or at least it did till recently. In light of record deficits and recent unemployment numbers, the nation does not seem to be any better off, even though the government took over General Motors and Citigroup. Still, Obama wants the state to control more of our property, more of our wealth. He asks us to give him increased control of our health care system so that we can make the country healthier. He asks us to give him more control of our nation's energy so that he can set the global thermostat. There are costs to Obamonomics, just as there were consequences to Leninism. Forget the fact that the federal government still has not figured out how to pay for the promises it has made over the past several decades. This is not about balancing budgets. It is about the Obamonistas aggregating wealth. The more they get, the more powerful they become. Just yesterday, Joe Biden called the Tea Party's terrorists. And this is where the rich come in. Obama needs their money to finance his acquisition of the private sector. He cannot take it at gunpoint as Lenin did in Russia. So he has to use taxation and regulation. Now, what I'm going to say to you in the next two sentences should be memorized and written down, boys and girls of the Savage Nation. Over the past 3 decades, this government has been taking wealth from the producers, the job creators, the savers, and the innovators. Pay attention to what I'm going to read to you. In 1987, the richest 1% paid roughly 1/4 of all income taxes. The bottom 50% paid 6% of all taxes. That was in 87. Fast forward to 2007 when I last had the data. And the richest 1% were paying 40% of all income taxes, and the bottom 50% are paying just under 3%. So in other words, the bottom pay less, the middle pay more, the rich pay more. In other words, the productive class is already picking up a disproportionate share of our government's tab. And still, things seem to be getting worse. We have a government running record deficits. We have millions upon millions who are underemployed or worse, unemployed. We have a socialized medical plan called Medicare Part A that will go bust in 2017. The United States has at least $50 trillion in unfunded obligations, all on account policymakers like Obama, who think that the redistribution of wealth makes a nation richer, not poorer. Ladies and gentlemen, the trouble with socialism, as one once observed, is that you eventually run out of other people's money. Here is a better idea from the Savage Nation. Let's not raise taxes for the producers. Let's cut their taxes. Let's let the producers keep their money and invest it in their ideas. If the idea works, they will create jobs and empower individuals. If the idea fails, then it is back to the drawing board without a government check. The advantage of this approach is that it rewards the producers without empowering the bureaucrats. And as the producers grow wealthy, so does the nation. I'm Michael Savage. We are talking about the two narratives of the budget battle. The phone number here is 1-800-449-8255. MichaelSavage.com is the website with over 45 million unique visitors a month, or page views, 45 million page views a year. I'm getting ahead of myself, pardon me. We just got the data on the new website. It's through the roof.